Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second episode of Digitally Yours, a new series by etbrandequity.com, where we'll be engaging with key stakeholders in the digital marketing and advertising sector in this country. Our first season consists of 6 episodes and is themed around the playbook for customer retention. And this season has been brought to you in partnership with CleverTech. As the world joins forces to contain the current COVID-19 crisis, businesses are concerned with customer optimization. The two foundations of customer loyalty, that is trust and confidence, are being put to test. In this environment, customer behavior and patterns have changed immensely. The time period of the term lifetime value has become quite fluid. And as a matter of fact, customer lifetime value is among the most appreciated marketing metrics today. However, as they say, with every crisis, there is a window of opportunity. And this global crisis is truly about customer movements. And putting the customer first and the customer interest first is what matters for businesses today. Today, in our second episode, we will try to understand what works in the real world scenario and what can really become the playbook for marketers all around. We're honored to be joined by a panel of professionals who have been leading their businesses and leading their brands and creating great customer retention experiences and customer retention and customer lifetime value experiences for the customers. It is my great honor to introduce my panel. In no particular order, I welcome Mr. Prasun Kumar, CMO at Just Dial. So welcome, sir. It's great to have you today with us.
Same here. Look forward to an exciting discussion.
Thank you. My next panelist is Ms. Soumya Kant. She is the founding member of Clovia. So welcome, Soumya, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thank you. My next panelist is Mr. Jagdish J. He is the Vice President of Digital Marketing at Unacademy. Thank you, Jagdish. I'm looking forward to an intriguing session with you. Moving on, we have Mr. Pranay Gupta. He's the Vice President of Growth at Magic Pin. So welcome, Pranay, and it's great to have you with us today.
Satrajit, I hope this is useful for everyone.
Thank you. So, Mr. Lalit Gudipati, Head of Growth at Pocket FM, is also with us. So, welcome, Lalit, and I'm looking forward to an intriguing session with you.
Me too.
Thanks, Lalit. And we have Mr. Jasmeet Singh Gandhi, Head of Global Business Development at CleverTap. So, welcome, Jasmeet. It's great to see you again with us.
Yeah, hi. I would like to, on behalf of CleverTap, welcome everybody and thank you so much for your time.
So welcome, my panelists. As we have discussed earlier, before going deep into into understanding the dynamics and the nitty-gritties of customer lifetime value, I would really want to come to each one of you and basically understand the importance of customer lifetime value in your current business landscape and your respective brand, and how are you looking to fetch some tangible benefits out of your customer lifetime or customer retention exercises. So we can go with Prasun first. So Prasun, if you can understand from your point of view how important customer lifetime value is for you, and for customer retention, what are some of the best practices that Just Dial has been following?
Thanks a lot, Satyajit. It's a rather important subject, not only for marketers like me, but all kinds of business leaders across domain, across industries. See, we all, as the cliche goes, we all live to maximize shareholders' value. That's what open economy is all about. But long ago, one big guru, and I think he was everyone's guru when it came to business management practices, which was Peter Drucker. And I think Peter had said long ago, which goes something like this: the true purpose of a business is to create and keep customers, right? And this was much before a shareholder value maximization or any other such term came into being. And that's really at the core of this. The point is, if an organization exists to serve customers, to satisfy customer needs, then lifetime value of a customer is at the center of the strategy of that organization. And hence the importance, literally. Research after research has shown, and all kinds of research has shown that it's top companies, if you look at top 100 companies of the world, they have far higher proportion of loyal customer base than next 100 companies or say mid to bottom level companies. And you do not need a better evidence than this to really focus on creating lifetime value for customers and trying to retain customers. And again, it's quite well known fact that the acquisition cost, the cost of acquiring a customer, is often 5 to 25 times higher than cost of retaining a customer. So whichever angle you look at it from, creating customers and retaining customers has to be a topmost priority for any organization. And therefore, the concept of managing lifetime value of customers and creating product, services, processes, policies conducive to that is of paramount importance. And I think that's really where the real crux of the matter lies.
That's a great note to open, actually. So, you have hit the nail perfectly, when you are saying that why customer lifetime value does matter for every business. So moving on to Soumya. Soumya, in your business, I think, the customer lifetime value, the customer demands have been changing, very fast, right? We have seen how, especially in the e-commerce space, how customers are so much demanding, and they expect a new level of engagement with a brand in every day. So how does the definition of customer lifetime value change, or if at all it changes, or how do you look at when it comes to an e-commerce platform?
So actually, I think over the years it has changed a lot. So for example, customer wanting fast delivery used to be a delight earlier, but now it's a mandate. And it's become almost a battle of the thumb, that with endless scrolling that a customer is doing, how do you catch their attention and make the thumb stop at your own brand? In terms of also, the customer has become very aware of how sustainable a brand is, how humane a brand is. The empathy value is really high. So we focus significantly on positivity when we communicate with our customers. We focus on joy, happiness. So even if we're addressing a girl's problem, we'll focus on the joy part of it and not really the sad part of it. And even if we can't solve that problem for her, we'll at least have a good laugh with her. And that's how we, attempt at staying on top of her mind when she's shopping with us, or when she's coming to the brand. So all our social pages, all of our brand language is around joy and happiness. For example, if we're talking about PCOS, which is such a crippling problem for today's women, we still have fun at it. We'll solve the problem with the best of the product that we can give them, but we'll also have fun with them at the, we'll make memes, we'll do a lot of jokes around it. So that's how we stay at, top of their mind. And that's how we feel that, because we're bringing a very human side to the entire brand, the customer will recall us when they're shopping.
Yeah, correct. I mean, basically, it's more imperative in today's day and time to actually, make sure that the customer is there for you lifetime whenever he thinks about
Right.
that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Correct. On that note, Jagdish, speaking about categories, right? You are in a very interesting space, right? So, creating lifetime value. How do we do it with education? Like, once the course is over, the customer leaves, right? I mean, is it like that, or if you can enlighten us?
Thanks. That's a good question, Sitarjit. The thing is, if customer lifetime value, if you see, it's a predicted value, right? You have the past data. With that, you predict what could be the ideal number or what will be the ideal value which will be getting from the customer over the lifetime. Basically, it includes two things. How do I increase the value maximization, and how do I extend the lifetime? The lifetime definition could be 1 year for a brand and 2 year for a different brand, right? So if a industry is matured, it is easy to calculate a lifetime of the user, while the value is dependent on each category. However, there is another way also. If a customer matures in a particular platform, if in our platform, if the customer is matured, means what is the X number of interaction or X number of transactions if a customer do in the platform, we call it as maturity, right? I was part of rideshare industry before, where the customer lifetime value could be calculated based on 6 weeks of user data. After being acquired, you just need to wait for 6 weeks, because the whole customer journey will kind of come to stability after that. But in our platform right now, the education, where we are completely doing things which are not done 2 to 3 years back, right? We are mostly, people are part of education. When it comes to education and learning, things are done in the same manner for last 100 years, and things are changing in the last few years, right? And it's accelerated by the recent pandemic which we are having right now. So customers' preference and customers' requirement are changing on a day-to-day basis. So how do I maximize the customer lifetime in the platform is what we continuously work on. There are multiple ways we do it. Let's say education by itself is a continuous process. A user who, let's say, in 12th standard today and then taking a 12th standard subscription of us is also a potential customer for a IIT JEE customer tomorrow. And after you go to IIT and finish the IIT, you could be again planning for higher studies. You will go for a GATE or CAT. And then ultimately, there are multiple other things which will come into, right? How do I make sure that in the period which the customer is in our platform, I will maximize the delight? Are we providing more value from the customer mind? Are we providing more value than what is the perceived value from the course, right? This is what we continuously do. We call it our moments. Can we bring in multiple aha moments in the journey of the subscription, so that tomorrow when a new requirement comes for the user for the education and learning, we are there in the top of the mind recall. That's how we plan. And then from the marketing point of view, that's how we plan to make sure that the customer lifetime is extended in our platform, and ultimately the value comes to it. The second part is, again, expanding our product portfolio, that you build up. So the first is increasing the lifetime, and then expand the product portfolio, that everything which a customer wants when it comes to learning, we are there. The education is democratized today, and we're doing a good part in it. And then let's say in every stage of education, can an academy be part of it, right? That's how we think it. That's how we maximize the value. These are the two core principles which drives our future plans and everything. So customer lifetime value is actually a core of our planning when it comes to an academy.
Correct. I think, you rightly mentioned the pandemic, and the pandemic has changed a lot of things around us. And education is one such thing that has really, changed and overturned for, for people. So, staying on pandemic, and the effects of the pandemic that we are seeing currently, I would want to come to Pranay and understand from his perspective, like, from Magic Spin's perspective, how do you see the, customers and the customer, demands and their characteristics change? Because, you are in a very interesting category, which is relies on the customer to go out and experience, the offers that you have, right? So Pranay, over to you.
So you're right, Satyajit. Magic Pin fundamentally was very, very focused, and I'll say 100% focused on getting the customer to go out. And in pandemic period, there are customers, they're still looking for deals. We are the first savings app. They have multiple points. And interestingly, on the other side, the merchants are also looking for customers, right? And that's what got initiated us into what else can we do? How can we solve it for both merchants and customers? And now on Magic Pin, our customers are able to get savings on food delivery. They're able to get savings on purchases they're doing online. And interestingly, now offline has really kicked off, right? So for Magic Pin, pandemic has almost become a blessing, because it took us from what we were doing in one vertical to now 3 verticals, and all 3 of them are growing very rapidly. And talking of basically linking it to customer lifetime value, I think honestly, it's everything is hidden in the name, right? There's a customer, there's a lifetime, and there's value, right? And if we can add value to the customer, and we can remove the friction that the customer goes through while doing that transaction, the customer lifetime value will just keep growing, right? And that's what we've been able to do. So we removed a lot of friction that the customer was facing into all of these. And now for our customers, I mean, they're coming and transacting on our platform at least 7 to 8 times a month, even more, right? And all of that is because they're able to find that value, and they keep coming back for it.
Great. I think you summed it up beautifully. The answer is in the question itself, customer lifetime value, and you just need to, define it well. That's a great way to start. So, Lalit, I would want to come to you and understand from your category, right? We have seen how streaming services have really, grown, especially in the pandemic times. I mean, people were locked in to their houses. The only, source of entertainment was streaming, be it audio, be it video, right? So how do you see that? So one is obviously, this is a twofold question. One is obviously about customer lifetime value in your respective business, and secondly, how have you seen the customers change over the time, especially given the recent, effects of the pandemic that we have seen?
So first disclaimer that I want to give is like we are a pandemic startup, right? So like when the pandemic hit, we were still starting to scale the product, right? So we don't have a reference per se from our own internal experiences, but like when we were also starting out, right? One of the things that we had in mind was how audio consumption was happening worldwide, right? And one of the main use cases that we saw outside India was primarily around commute, around a lot of stuff that does happen outside, right? It's not a very pandemic thing, but we were surprised ourselves that how our users adapted to use a product, right? And like it just boils down to how good your content is, right? The content is the product, and if the content that you're creating your users like, they will more or less figure out how to use the product, right? And we've come across so many interesting use cases that like I like it just boggles my mind how that has been achieved, right? But I think it like we do still expect even after the pandemic like ends hopefully soon enough, that people will still continue either shift back to their older use cases or like stick to whatever they figured out in the last few years, right? And seems like an exciting time to be in the audio space, right? And also that in terms of like customer lifetime value, right? I think one of the things that we internally also think of customer lifetime value is twofold, right? One is a very direct aspect to it where like the user is actually giving you money, right? From a like a company's perspective, he's just giving you money. The other thing that importantly we track a lot more is the indirect value that a user adds, right? He might not end up paying by himself, right? But every user who uses a product ends up inviting somebody else, right? Who becomes a touch point for us for further revenue, right? And this whole cycle does not typically cost us anything. All we have to do is ensure that everybody has the same user experience, a charming user experience, and they will themselves act as salespersons for us, right? And bring in more users, right? And the reason why this is important for us is that we are like our TAM is anybody with a smartphone in India, right? We don't have a particular user who will be our best user, right? Like anybody in India can consume content, and that's what we're going after, right? So it helps us a lot also in terms of when we bring into the picture this indirect customer lifetime value, and I think that's what has primarily been our focus in terms of our experiments also to optimize and grow on, right? In addition to obviously like everything else that the panel has mentioned, I think that is one additional thing that we do extra, I feel, at Pocket.
Correct. You mentioned you were a pandemic startup, and I think it was a brilliant time to actually start your business, especially when we see when we had experienced a sea of change for customers in across every sector almost. This actually leads to my question to Jasmeet. Jasmeet, we have a cross a sector representation in this panel, and it's beautiful that we are talking about e-commerce, we're talking about streaming service, we are talking about education, and so on and so forth. So Jasmeet, in your experience of working with varied brands across sectors, how have you seen them really adapt to the situation, especially when the pandemic is concerned? How have you seen businesses rely more on customer lifetime value for creating a robust pipeline, especially after the pandemic?
Well, yes. So I think if you look at whatever the panel has been speaking about, the basics are not very different, right? It's just that the pandemic has accelerated the adoption for many categories. Some, like Lalit said earlier, we used to say born in the cloud. Now we are saying born in the pandemic. So that's acceleration, right? And acceleration primarily means that you have to adapt faster. also competition is more fierce. So, as Prasoon said, that cost of retention is 5x of acquisition, and that's absolutely correct in today's times. And many of the startups, say, who are primarily B2C and not, say, yet well funded, and the definition of well funded keeps changing today. I find it very difficult to sort of ramp up growth on the customer side, because everybody is fighting for the same share of time.
Correct.
It's not share of wallet now, it's all share of time. Share of time is equal to more retention is equal to more LTV. So that's how it goes. But I'm really happy to hear the point of views that the panelists are mentioning, and I'm really happy to see that they are focusing on better engagement, leading to, as Soumya said, a more joyful engagement, therefore leading to happier customers, more retention. All these things are not in focus earlier. I think these are the things which are changing for the better. And, that's where platforms like ours can come in and help, say, somebody like a Lalit to understand segments, right? Because creating better engagement for micro segments, because it's a content-based platform, for example, becomes very vital for them to, have personalized communication, leading to better repeat value or repeat visits, leading to more retention, therefore more LTV, so on and so forth. So I think as we are going along, we are discovering a lot more. So yeah, and I would really love to hear more from all these practitioners, because they are the guys who are really executing on a day-to-day basis with no templates. So like Jagdish said, it's not a matured category, so they don't have a precedence of defining what LTV in their category means, which is very, very fair to say. And I think it's fascinating to hear all of things. So yeah, I would love to dive deeper into all these issues and get to hear more from them.
Correct. Thanks, Jaspreet. You rightly mentioned that the basics still remains the same, be it pre-pandemic or post-pandemic. On that note, so, we would I really want to come to Prasoon and understand. Prasoon, your brand Just Dial has been there for ages, right? I mean, it has been there for a long time, and it has seen both the worlds now. The pre-pandemic, the post-pandemic. I just hope that we are in the post-pandemic, and the pandemic is just behind us. How do you does the customer lifetime retention exercises, have you seen a kind of change in that of how you had been approaching it before pandemic and after pandemic, or does the basics still remain the same, and you approach it in the same way that you have been doing it before?
I think as Jasmeet rightly said, fundamentals have not changed and will not change. Okay, so that's point number one. Point number two is as Lalit was saying, that we are a pandemic era or pandemic born business. I'll tell you, every single business has undergone some sort of transformation during this last 1.5 years, right? And a lot of things that we do today were not something that we were considering 1.5 years ago. And therefore, to that extent, I think every business is a little bit now pandemic-driven business, or in a way, pandemic customized business, if I can put it like that. And when we discussed about some of these fundamentals changing, not changing. See, if you look at any category, and we have very good representation today, there are 2-3 things that come out. When you're looking at CLV and what value it's going to bring, and how do you go about that. Therefore, first of all, it definitely brings cost savings across categories, and that's something that is undeniably huge value that you attach to in today's times, especially. Okay. Second thing is retaining an existing customer does bring in better top lines. Better you are able to probably realize more average revenue per customer as against what you were doing earlier. And cost saving also results in better bottom lines for you, right? So if you look at the entire P&L, CLV adds value across every step of that P&L. It also adds a lot of value by creating positive word of mouth. So if your onboarding has been very seamless, if your ticket resolution has been very seamless, if by and large, your content is keeping customers engaged, and so on and so forth, you are generating free advertising, to say so, for yourself. And that in turn is extremely valuable in today's times, not only for startups, that Lalit is part of, but also for established entities like us. Because being a hyperlocal horizontal platform, we are dealing with various kinds of businesses and various kinds of categories. And I think someone was rightly saying the metrics that apply to one category does not apply to the next category, right? I think Soumya was making that point, right? What was true yesterday as a customer wow experience is no longer a customer wow experience in a particular category. So one needs to constantly reinvent. Second is, I think one more important point was made, which was about personalization, right? And we have clearly seen the value and the benefit that personalization brings in, right through the funnel. And not only during onboarding, but when you are dealing with a customer, and finally when there is an issue and the issue needs to be resolved, personalization today has become an almost must have again tool for you to be able to generate enough positive experiences across the funnel for yourself, and therefore trying to retain that customer. Another thing that in our business we have seen, because we deal with lots of SMEs, lots of small entrepreneurs, medium scale entrepreneurs, and so on and so forth, simplification of processes. Okay, that's very, very important. The more seamless and simplified your processes are, the higher are the chances of customers sticking with you, valuing you better, and in the end, staying with you for longer. Another very typical thing in the across categories that I have seen and observed is it's very important to create omni-channel experiences. In spite of the world going towards digitization and that being the buzzword, and everyone getting hockey stick growth during these lockdown periods and so on and so forth, large amount of customers today still experience or want an omni-channel experience and are not satisfied with only one particular kind of experience or only one particular kind of channel. So I think every business, every brand has to think through what can one do to really create value at multiple touch points, across. And lastly, again, I think Jasmeet made a very, very strong point about how we are all fighting for the share of time now, right? And this is an essential ingredient of what I call the loyalty economy, right? The more you build, the more share of time you get. And therefore the equation and the entire circle starts from there, that Jasmeet was saying. So across categories, we have seen different kinds of metrics emerging, different kind of expectations emerging, and different drivers of experiences and satisfaction as well, right? And therefore no solution fits all, but at the same point of time, fundamentals are not changing. Fundamentals remain the same, and the value that CLV brings on board, I think even 20 years ago, 30 years ago, it was the same, right? Technology has only aided to the process and brought in new concepts and newer ways of delivering things. But fundamentally, yes, you are correct, things remain the same. And 2-3 values that we have clearly seen. One small example before I conclude, we have also seen a little bit of tweaking with, say, as it's not a mundane thing, but probably not core to CLV, tweaking with pricing strategies. Okay, your traditional way of commercially dealing with your consumer vis-a-vis moving on to newer ways of pay-per performance and various new techniques within that. All these are leading to reducing churn big time, and that in turn is helping driving better CLVs, but it's also helping in onboarding newer customers. And a lot of these learnings are actually pandemic and nearby area learning. So all in all, if you look at right from onboarding till about issue resolution, the simplification of processes, the personalization of services, and the more technology-led services that you bring in. All these things are today helping in creating better CLVs.
Thank you, Prasan. You just beautifully summed up the entire, kind of ROI, if you so as to say, one looks from their CLV exercises, and the tangible outcomes that businesses and brands need to look at from CLV, and from pricing to customer onboarding to everything, it leads to CLV actually, right? And that's a beautiful way to summarize this. So Soumya, we mentioned about the pre-pandemic and the post-pandemic era, and e-commerce, as we all know, has seen that change in the customers, right from the beginning, and customers have been really demanding when it comes to this sector specifically. So how do you see your strategy on customer lifetime value and customer retention change in terms of specifically speaking about Clovia, and when you look at transforming the customer and having him lifetime onboarded on your platform?
One is obviously the product offering that we make. So we start all the way from their teenage beginner bras all the way to their maternity products. So the entire life cycle of a customer is covered in the product bit. Now we've also launched skincare under Clovia Botanica. So we're trying to take more and more of their wardrobe space, of their shelf space, the things that they are looking at every day. So that's one way of retention, and also recall, that they're coming back to us again because they're seeing so much of it in their wardrobe every day. The other thing is that with the pandemic, more of tier 2, tier 3 and beyond customers have started to come online and have become more pro at online shopping. So we're trying to enhance the experience for them, make it easy for them. We're trying vernacular content so that it's easier for us to connect with them, whatever part of the country they may be. Our country is very unique in this term that every 100 miles, the body type, the color preferences, festivals, everything changes. So we're trying to be regional in terms of our content. We're trying to celebrate every body type and shape that there exists. The other thing that we're trying to do is that, like I said, that it's a battle of the thumb. So we're trying to create content which is very relatable to the entire age group of our customers, so of our target customers. If it's a young girl smitten by K-dramas, she'll also relate with us when she comes on our page. Or it's a 35-year-old girl, she will also relate with the problems that she's facing or the things that she's celebrating in her life. So we're trying to keep it very content driven on both our social and on our app. Of course, 90% of our business is on mobile. So half the battle is won because that's the prime real estate where we have to capture the customer, and most people are now spending a lot of time on their mobiles. And then the other side of it is that how do you gain their attention on that small scale real estate? So yeah, that's what we are doing.
Right. It's interesting that you mentioned about the mobile screen on the mobile platform, because this has become one of the biggest kind of customer touch points for every business today, right?
Absolutely.
Correct. So, staying on to mobile, and it actually leads me to my next question, which is to Jagdish. Jagdish, how do you see, one is obviously the mobile adoption in your business. And secondly, since you are a kind of new age category, right? How do you manage the expectations from your customers? Because they are also experiencing the product for the first time, so as to say, and, and they are also playing with the product. So one is obviously on the mobile screen front, and secondly, the larger aspect of customer lifetime value. How does it change when it comes to specifically your category?
Everyone is mentioning mobile is our biggest source of customer acquisition and customer retention, right? I think, I mean, like how Samir was mentioning, large part of tier 2 and tier 3 users are coming to the platform, and then it's easy. The making the education accessible is one of our core motto, and the accessibility is lesser in the area like tier 2, tier 3 right now. A best educator or best content, whatever you call it, right? So that's lower in this kind of area. So when it comes to mobile, so what we do is we make sure our experience is seamless across mobile, whether it is a mobile or a desktop. So there is no specific things which only available in mobile and only in desktop, but not in mobile, right? That is the core thing which we make sure that the experience by the user is very consistent across the platform. The second one is mobile gives you an opportunity to continuously touch the user on a regular basis. So we have, let's say, if a particular preference is being shown by a particular user, we have micro segments created across across multiple parameters, right? So and then we continuously communicate to the user saying that what exactly excites them, and then keep them on board. And also we parallelly build a brand imagery across different boards. I mean, through content, and then through content partnership with the different brands, so that we are in the top of the mind recall for the customers. Like I mentioned, one side we are building different use cases for the user to be in the platform and then come back to our platform. And then the second bit is making sure we communicate the right things to the user on a regular basis. These are the two core things which we are doing to make sure that the customer is staying in the platform and provide higher value. But I would say, like you mentioned, it is we are still in the early stage. The things are just we've grown 10x in the last 1 year, and aided by a lot of external factors also, along with the core offering. But this is we are, I would say, we only seen the tip of the iceberg. The education in India is having one of the biggest TAM, right? Consider any product which you're taking, the TAM is close to 28 crores. Anybody and everybody who's in the school and then above it. So what you do is, when it comes to customer lifetime value, this offering which you provide defines the value. That actually gives us the leverage to invest more on acquiring new customer. The CAC is, as of today, is defined by what is the potential lifetime value which you're going to get. Like how Prasun was mentioning, the retention provides a better top line, better bottom line, so that it is very important. In our case, it provides a better number so that we can invest in a company which is in the growth stage where we are looking for heavy growth. It gives us that extra leverage to put more in the customer growth. So we are building a really good product which has a higher lifetime value. And then right now, if you acquire more customer, ultimately we can get more value for the customer. That's a philosophy which you are going. And this lifetime value, when it's being built at a micro level, we should be able to customize our communication and our product for the future. The next set of a big product could be coming from a small micro segment which you created, and then they acquire from there.
If everybody allows him to excuse, I would really love to, thank Prasun Saw for joining us today and taking out time from his busy schedule. Prasun, will basically come back to you and get your inputs on the poll that we are going to quiz everybody with. But yeah, thank you so much for joining.
Thanks a lot, Satyajit. And I'm really sorry for this. This is quite unavoidable for me right now. And thank you everyone, right from Jasneet, Jagdish, Soumya, Lalit, and Pranay. Thanks for this. I was looking forward to much more invigorating discussion, but we'll keep it up offline then.
So moving on, Jagdish, you made a very interesting point about how customer lifetime value gets more value out of the when it comes to the mobile screens and when it comes to the more millennial kind of audiences, which kind of brings me to Lalit. Lalit, your platform and your product as such is very, is largely consumed by millennials, right? And the Gen Zs and the millennials. So how do you see that the dynamics of customer retention change when it comes to this segment of audience? And secondly, how are you, strategizing your moves on the mobile platform? I mean, which should majorly be your source of customers.
Sure. So I think I completely agree with the point that Jagdish made, that the channel doesn't matter as much, right? The idea is you want to be where your user is, right? And wherever the user is, you want to give the best possible experience, right? That being said, right now I understand mobile is mobile and everybody is on mobile, right? And that's sort of the space where everybody's optimizing for better retention, better lifetime value, and everything, right? So we primarily look at this in a couple of ways, right? So if you like, I'll just take a minute to explain this, right? Mobile adds an amount of personalization that content consumption hasn't been available to everybody in India so far, right? Just imagine somebody who's consuming content on TV, right? It's going to be a much more family-based experience. He's gonna like watch a specific content that is more like acceptable in the house, right? Whereas on the other hand, whenever people like whatever observe like content patterns we've seen clearly show that content preferences change for the same user the moment he goes to mobile, right? Because it's a more personal experience, right? And that's one of the things that we try to tap into a lot more in terms of the content also that we produce, and why like the value proposition that we give to our user, right? Why should they use Pocket FM, right? Why not say use something else or watch a video on YouTube or watch something on TV, right? The value prop that we give there is that this content is something that is unique and you can only find it here, right? And that has primarily what has helped us with keeping our retention numbers significantly high, right? And the other thing also that I feel that has worked in terms of retention for us specifically is the way that we've done our business model, right? Primarily, if you look at OTT, they're primarily premium services or bundled services, right? Where you pay upfront. But the way that we've gone about with Pocket FM is we've done a very premium model, right? Like where like you don't need to pay to consume, right? Obviously, there's a purchase thing that comes in the picture where like our power users do make purchases, but the idea is that we want everybody to first consume audio, because the other thing that is important for us also is audio is still a new entertainment channel, right? Music sure has been around for a long time, but non-music audio, what we primarily do is still very new in the market, and we first want to drive adoption. And to drive adoption, the best thing that you can do is first get users to consume the product itself, right? And to do that, we had to go through like a whole business model idea where you can't build a premium thing where the user doesn't understand the value of your product, right? The first thing was to go for a freemium model, get users to consume your product and like, see the value of how it adds into their life, right? And then on top of that, then build a model that makes sense for us also as a business, right? Understand how do we uh, bring in life cycle, like the value, how do we draw value from these users, right? And the other thing also is that like in addition to mobile, right, I think one of the things that will also become very important for us in the future is like how IoT develops, right? Like for us, like at least I am very excited about the fact that we are a very smart speaker use case sort of a product, right? So we want to expand there as much as possible. Then car radios, right? CarPlay, AirPlay, all these things that you have in your cars these days, right? We fit very naturally there, right? So in terms of like the whole distribution play, I think mobile will be where we acquire users, but most of our consumption might happen other places also, right? So we want to maintain a good experience everywhere.
Yeah, that's a very pertinent point when you speak about the connected devices, the IoT, because the future is there. I mean, people are going towards that, and consumption of content, on the go is really the new paradigm of content creation and content creators. Even for a publisher like us, right? Make sure that people consume our content on the go. That is something that we are also trying to figure out. So yeah, great inputs. Thank you, Lalit. Pranay, this brings me to staying on the same point of consumption points, right? And consumption media, right? We spoke about highly about mobile and how we have seen how mobile as a platform is so relevant for all the businesses that we have today on the panel, right? So my question to you is twofold. One is obviously, how does mobile phone, the role that mobile phone and the mobile platform play in a business, that you are operating in. That's one. And secondly, for a business that bets on hyper local, right? How have you seen the dynamics change in terms of customer, retention when it comes to hyper local? Because we touched upon a point initially when you sort of said that you would ideally want the customers to experience it outside, right? But they're logged in, and to be very honest, people are still at a are taking baby steps towards moving out, right? So in that sense, how does the mobile platform become so important for in your business, and what are the retention strategies that you have?
So these I first talk a bit generically, right? Which is like if we think of like we are talking of like we are all these cool startups which is focused on customer lifetime value, whereas there were these old school businesses which never thought about that. And honestly, that's true because in the old school businesses, let's take a FMCG company, right? They're not thinking of customer lifetime value because they cannot track a customer, right? They don't know the lifetime. So what they are working on is each transaction has to be value accredited. Whereas we all exist because we can do that. So now we can do these funky maths around what's my customer acquisition cost, when will I cover it up, when can I make profit, right? Now, if you think of this, and I mean, this is where the startups exist, this is where technology startups exist, this is why VCs exist, right? Because VCs are able to then fund the burn for that future growth, etc. Now, if you think of this, all of this is enabled by technology, right? Now, when I say technology, it has to remove the friction. It has to allow me to be able to connect and stay connected with a customer. It has to allow me to bring back a customer, to enable them to transact more, find more value out of the system, and make this all frictionless. And that's where mobile is just an amazing medium, right? It's in your pocket throughout. The users are using it for all activities. It's to me, it's not really a mobile versus say a laptop conversation. It's just how and what technology enables you to do what, right? And that's where for us, especially looking at hyperlocal and otherwise too, right? Like India, honestly, a lot of people are mobile first and sometimes mobile only internet users. So then you don't even have a choice, right? Let's forget the thing about mobile versus laptop. But for us, mobile allows us to work with customers much more deeply. We are able to understand because so we as Magic Pin have 1.5 lakh local merchants across India that we've tied up with. This is like massive, right? Uh, like if you think of D2C brands in India, like that will be like a minuscule number in front of it. Now we need to like just think of the way this creates various technology issues, right? How do you showcase these all these brands to a user? And that's where mobile can be very awesome, right? We know the location of the user, we understand the behavior pattern of the user. Can we showcase the right products that the user would want to see, right brands, right local stores which the user would want to go to, right? And that's just one of the use case. Can we prompt the user at the right time, right? We know the user is at certain location, and if we can if we can prompt the user that if you're doing this transaction, you'll get a certain, you can use so many of your magic points here, that will lead to user finding the right value, right? And so on and so forth. It's a very like it's one of those big data issues. Our tech team is amazing at creating the right algorithms to ensure the user is able to find value through this matching of what 1.5 lakh merchants would the user want to do a transaction on, and where should we provide these savings to the users.
Correct. It's a beautiful point that you mentioned about, traditional businesses versus, the startups. The dynamics, the basics really don't change. But yeah, obviously, we have we as in like the startups have the leverage of technology, the leverage of data that helps them around. Yeah.
Satyajit, honestly, I feel like even traditional businesses, you'll now see them move very, very fast towards this, right? Even Magic Pin, we are already working with FMCG companies where now they're coming with a lot of the, say, for example, BTL budgets they had, and they're coming to Magic Pin saying, if you can enable me to sell, say, an atta at a particular relevant local store, then why am I doing these non-trackable BTL activities, right? So you'll see the traditional businesses also thinking through lifetime value, going through this aspect of how can I connect with the user and stay connected.
Correct. I was actually coming to that because they have also assessed the kind of value that their businesses can get from these exercises, and technology just enables it, and technology just takes it notches ahead, and they have so that yeah, obviously so be it traditional and be it a startup, the value still remains the same. The value that a CLB exercise can add to your business is still the same. Yeah, so great point. Thanks, Pranay. So Jasmeet, as we move towards the end of this discussion, right? I would, basically want to come to you and understand from your. Today we have spoken about, how CLB matters in a And e-commerce business, we have seen how hyper local businesses are experimenting with CLV, and from education to streaming, as well as to a very old brand like Just Dial as well. So in your sense, how does the future look like when it comes to brands experimenting with CLV? Because we have just spoken to Pranay, and Pranay has stated how the traditional businesses are also kind of coming back and rising towards the, and basically having a taste of how technology can help them in this. So your thoughts, Jasmeet, on how the future looks like, and how CLV is going to be the most thing, and the most the most important metric that we measure, that matters in a business like that.
So my take on future is, the future earlier used to be defined by the time it took to innovate, right? Now I think innovation cycles are synchronized with lockdowns. Uh, so the next lockdown will bring some new innovation. So the point I'm trying to make is that, from what everybody has said in the last 20 minutes, is that all businesses are now striving towards two things. One is understanding who your user is, and B, understanding what they are doing. Okay. So therefore, it gives birth to terms like omni-channel presence or omni-channel view, and seamless experiences, right? So it's a dichotomy. You need to know what your customer is doing in the online and offline world, and at the same time bridge the gap from the same product and services that you're offering. Okay, and to do that, of course, what everybody is doing is increasing their relevance via, becoming relevant throughout the need cycle of the customer's life. So like Soumya said, from teenage to pregnancy, and like Jagdish said, from primary to postgraduate. You have to keep increasing your product portfolios to remain relevant. You have to keep increasing your geographical footprint today, because mobile penetration, which is now the common platform for access, is available, in every city and every type of SEC segment, if you may. And of course, most importantly, you have to surround it with content and find the right distribution, which may not be even within your app, like, because your consumers are going to various platforms, right? So you're having a multi-pronged view of how you want to engage your customer, with the primary focus of bringing the user back for the time share of time, therefore increasing engagement and increasing your lifetime value. While that is established, and people are creating their own practices based on what business they are in, I think it gets affected most by the frequency of usage that your product demands from a user. So for example, for Lalit, who's in the content business, deemed frequency has to be higher because it's episodic, or if it's a daily content business, for example. Whereas similarly for education, right? There are courses, you take those courses, you come back every day, you increase your reach from one course to another, etc., etc. But say for e-commerce, where the transaction or the need cycle may not be daily, okay, somebody has bought atta today, will buy maybe next month, so on and so forth. So the frequency of interaction or frequency of need will define your communication strategy, and that's where we can help in terms of understanding what those need cycles are, and of course pushing it in the right channels and helping you create the right campaigns, which is very, very important to keep users engaged so that they don't sort of see you, because see, communication today will define brand. So you're not doing your traditional advertising anymore, right? Your communication is restricted to a push notification today, and if it arrives at the wrong time with the wrong context, I can uninstall your app. Nothing stops me from doing that. So it becomes very, very relevant, therefore, to think of these small nuances which help you to sort of retain your users with a lot more sensitivity, if you may, okay, which was not the practice earlier. And I think today those tools exist, and all these wonderful panelists are doing that every day, and I'm sure they are tuning their strategies almost on a daily basis. So it's great to hear these points of view, and it's amazing how, as you said, the future to me looks like in short spurts. It's like today, and then of course next week looks like future again. So yeah, it's being impacted very fast, and I think we have to keep learning and readjusting. So that's
Great. I think, on that note, it brings us back to what we started with, and a note of thanks to Samya actually to really touch upon that point of creating joyful experiences for consumers. So that matters for every business here today, and even every business who are actually watching us or who are actually seeing us. So great. So on that note, I think we have kind of covered the entire circle of how businesses are looking at customer lifetime value, creating great customer retention experiences, and basically catering to the pertinent needs of their customers, and how basically make the customers, come back to the platform for life. So we have covered a lot of a lot of aspects, and we have seen how our panelists have been experimenting day in and day out to make sure that the customers stay there on their platform. On behalf of ET Brand Equity, I would really, want to extend a warm note of thanks to all my panelists today. So, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us today and enlightening us on what real-time customer lifetime value means to businesses. Thank you, Lalit. Thank you, Jagdish. Thank you, Pranay. Thank you, Samya, and thank you, Jasmeet, for joining us today. With this, we come to an end of the second episode. Until next time, see you on the next episode. Thank you so much.